And welcome to the Tuesday, August 15th, 2023 regular Police Commission meeting. Could we start with the Pledge of Allegiance of the flag? Joe, you want to lead us?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, do we have any additions or deletions to the agenda?
We have one. Agenda item number 1 should be swear-in of active reserve officers. It was Officer Kelly has yet to go to the academy, and Officer Tremblay has resigned as a reserve officer. He resigned. Officer Tremblay's resigned, and Officer Kelly, who is present tonight, has not gone to the reserve academy yet. So it'll just be for active reserve officers only.
Okay.
All right?
So we'll just leave this item?
Swear in active reserve officers. That's the agenda item.
Oh, okay.
Change it.
All in favor of amending the agenda as proposed by Doug?
Second it, but aye.
Aye. So can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the July 18th regular Police Commission meeting?
Motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So now we're down to that action item. You want to take it over, sir?
Before we get started, I kind of want to read some background history with the agenda item and why we're here tonight, if I can just take a few minutes. So we created a notebook, and in the bottom of it, I want to read a little excerpt we have about the reserve unit and a little bit about the history.
Can you get closer?
The Groesville Police Unit has been dedicated to the residents of the township of Groesville since the 1950s, proving to be a valuable asset as a steadfast group of volunteers that hold public service in high regard. The commitment and sacrifices demonstrated by these men and women are now exemplified by their solemn oath and service as recognized for their faithful service. And what that means is basically that the reserve unit, they're remaining the same, but by the oath that they're going to give tonight, they're giving their personal commitment or pledge to the community. The community is going to get the buy-in on this. They're going to get the promise of them to do their job. And if I can go a little further, this oath, reserve officers are still volunteers and they're not licensed police officers by MCO standards. And I'm not sure if you gentlemen understand what that means, but Sergeant Vasquez, Lieutenant Brozak, and myself are licensed officers by MCO standards and by the community of Groesville, the board. Trustee Porcelli was licensed, and now he's retired, and he's his license has expired. So that's an example where, but he still has all the history and knowledge that comes with his job. So that's an example of that. Reference, they won't be licensed. So there's no difference. There's no more police powers than they already have. It's just them making their commitment to the township, and then us giving them the trust to do this oath. It's kind of a win-win for both parties, if that makes sense. If I can go a little further, an oath is universally recognized as a solemn pledge. You're going to hear the word pledge again, that someone makes when they sincerely intend to commit to what they advocate and affirm. The trust and support of the community are essential if the department is to fulfill its commitment to the citizens and the community. And in that little reading I had there, it came out of our policy, you hear the word pledge. And I'm going to go more into what their commitment is to the community. The pledge is to never betray the badge, integrity, or character, and to never compromise the public trust. So that's what we're doing today. They're going to make their oath to never compromise the public trust. And I kind of want to give you a little bit of history in there. We've had our program has been around since the 50s. Myself and a couple of the other, I think Ann Darsniak, we went into the archives with Margie Cape also, and we went far back to the 1940s actually, and we found information about the reserve unit in there where they bought some jackets. I think they bought 10 of them for $120, which is crazy, today's prices. But so before we start on the oath, is there any questions, or does that make sense what we're doing? Kind of want a little informative there. You good with that? All right. So I'm going to read. I'm going to have them all line up. Oh, the reserve unit, come on up. You guys can line up. And before we get started, I did talk to Clerk Lieutenant Connor and Deputy Clerk whole process, and they're fine with the way we're handling it, there's no, the curve what we're doing tonight, so. We do have one missing, but we can get them at another commission meeting. So every time we get a reserve, when Kelly finishes the academy, or I'm not sure on the schedule yet, we'll do that again at that police commission meeting, okay? So at the end of this, you're gonna raise your right hands, you're gonna say I do, or hopefully you won't say I don't, but it should be I do, okay? All right? I do, can you guys raise your right hands? Thank you. I do solemnly swear that, I'm going to read it and at the end you'll give your affirmation. I do solemnly swear that I will always support and uphold the Constitution, laws, and statutes of the United States of America and the state of Michigan, the charter and ordinances of the Township of Grosse Ile, and the policies, procedures, rules, and regulations of the Grosse Ile Police Department. On my honor, I will never betray my badge, my integrity, my character, or the public trust. I will always have the courage to hold myself and others accountable for their actions. Furthermore, I pledge that I will discharge my powers and duties of my position to the best of my knowledge and ability, so help me God. I do. Thank you. And you guys come and thank you. That's it. We had an oath book made, and then they're gonna, just like the one for the township, but, let me get my pen. Yep. And then, Sergeant Vasquez has been our liaison for the reserve unit for quite a while now, or? Since August, all right, since August, about a year, right, for about a year, and he's been, he's got recruiting and all that stuff that comes with it. So if you wanna sign right there and print your name, and then we'll fill out the rest afterwards. Try to make it legible if you can. That's it. Thanks, Wes. Thank you. If we go right here, sign your name right there, and then print your name right there. We've never done this before for the reserve unit, but a lot of other cities do this, and that's why, if you guys recall, we created an ordinance for the reserve unit. We're just trying to get us back up to into the times of the. Thank you.
Russ, why don't you come and let's shake hands here, each guy.
I'll sign there, and print your name there. Been a long time, Chris, to get this going. How many years we've been talking about this? So we'll fill in the information afterwards, so thank you. There you go, Chris, want to sign right there, and print your name right there.
Sir.
Around to the commission and thanks, Chris. So we've been talking about this for many, many years, having this moment happen for these men and women. So from time to time when General. And that's it. But thank you, guys. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for your commitment to the community and to our department. So thank you. Item 1.
All right, Doug, how do you want to handle the third one? Did you want to give a little?
You want to do action item 2, approval of the animal ordinance change?
Oops, I'm sorry.
To be forwarded
was
to the
jumping.
board?
Yes. Item 2, can you give us a little summary?
And our request to update our accreditation policies, we sometimes will come across some of the ordinances. I know you guys have had a couple ordinances that have come across, but for the ACO, the animal ordinance, that the township attorney reviewed this policy, or this ordinance, I'm sorry, and saw that they think that we can strengthen it by making some changes, and that's what they presented today. So some of the changes were the definition of adequate care, giving the animals more, a stronger thing for the protection of the animals and for the ACO or officers to enforce it. Sanitary conditions was changed, the definition, strengthened the same. The shelter, what the state of good health is defined. So it's to enforce, it's for the protection of the animals, to give us more leeway or discretion in what we can do or not do. It doesn't mean everything will be enforced, but it gives discretion on what needs to be done for animals. And then it changed in the back of it, it changed we still use the term animal warden in our ordinance when it's actually animal control officer. So that was changed in the policy too, in the ordinance also. And we're asking that to be approved and go up to the board. And Joe will present it to the township board.
Accept it.
Sure.
Can I have a motion to accept the ordinance as?
Motion to accept. Oh,
All in favor?
aye.
And for the third one, you guys know that Deputy Chief Pellin has retired. His last day of service was on the 11th, but his official last day on our books will be the 20th. So I spoke to Derek Thiel about appointing Lieutenant Brozak as the interim Deputy Chief on August 21st, and he agreed. And then that's what we have in place right now. So Deputy Chief Pellin is still part of the department until his official retirement date of the 20th. So we're looking to have the police commission come up with a process, or however they want to determine the next deputy chief.
Well, we kind of went all through this when we took care of, you and Ken and Todd. And I guess what I'd like to make a motion, and we can discuss if there's any issues with it. With the upcoming retirement of Deputy Chief Kenneth Pellin at the end of August 2023, the Groesville Police Commission recommends that Lieutenant Todd Brozak be appointed to fill the position of Deputy Chief effective August 21st,
Yes, sir.
as approved at the August 15th regular Police Commission meeting. That would be our recommendation of the board to put Todd in that position officially or permanently. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion. Joey,
You guys want to, no, go ahead if you need to say something first.
we had a lot of discussion when we went through going to the township board with Doug, Ken, and Todd all at the same time. So I didn't feel that there was a lot of further discussion to go through that again. And I was thinking you guys would probably go along with that. And as Doug noted, talking to Derek, he had approval to appoint Todd as the interim. So rather than stretch this out, let's try and make an immediate backfill to that position.
I wasn't here I wasn't a police commissioner, during the issue. I was still on the board. And after I retired, we've got to be cognizant, and we cannot deny some of the things that have occurred when the township board did not go by 6710, which is our township ordinance. You saw what happened. It's fact. It's not opinion. You guys worked this out. I believe that the commission are definitely the backbone of this township, period. You've been working with Doug for 2 years almost here. When he started and Todd was also put there as interim. If you gentlemen feel that this is the route you want to go, and I know that if Todd, and I think I've been straight with you, Todd, for all these years, but if Todd wasn't doing the job, I think we'd know about it. He stepped up to a manager's position. He became the manager's position. Doug did the same thing. You gentlemen got together. Again, maybe Mike was sitting here at the time.
No.
Oh,
It was after.
Mike wasn't even here? Okay, that's fine. Oh, I got you. So I have no problem if that's how you feel, that you would like to go from, forget the interim, to go through putting him there, and if that's, what you see. This is no offense to any of the people in the police department. There are not only qualifications, there's abilities, there's capabilities, and I learned in an FBI school, there's a word called deservability, and I use it. That has nothing to do with what you can do and what you do. It has to do with the rank and structure of your police department. We saw what happened when that was put kind of in a very odd way. So I have no problem going ahead and agreeing with you gentlemen tonight and voting yes for it. And that recommendation then is to be put towards, I will put it towards the township board. Jesse, if you want to just email me, please, and I'll take it from there. And we'll, I'll put that, if you like, on the next, if
This
that's
case-
appropriate. I'll put it on the 28th as our next board meeting, if that's what you'd like. So I just
We'd
wanted-
like that. He would be interim from the 21st, basically, till the,
Well, is there?
yeah. No, we're saying on the 21st,
21st.
correct? He's interim between now and the 21st, and then he'd be made permanent on, well, effective.
This board can appoint along with the blessing of Derek. Now, what we just have to do is, have you spoken to Derek? If he's appointed, if he's interim, can it start tomorrow? Tomorrow's what, the 16th, 17th? What's tomorrow?
The interim is,
16th?
Deputy Chief Powell is still the deputy chief until the 20th, so it starts on the 21st.
Oh, it's because, I apologize. I thought his last day was the 11th.
So that was his last working day.
Yeah,
But his
vacation.
Gotcha.
calendar working day, or actually on the books, I put it that way, is
My
the,
mistake.
the
Okay.
20th, which is a Sunday. I believe the 21st is a Monday, and that's when Derek will put out an announcement that
So he'll be interim from the 21st to the 28th, the
So,
night of the 28th.
until we get a decision.
Till you guys
The
make
night
it
of the
official.
28th, then we'll vote on it. How's that sound?
Yep.
And Jesse, you can send me something, and I will read that, is that?
Scott, do you have anything, or?
If you have something, go ahead.
No, I agree with it.
I agree. I was gonna say, we've gone through the interviews already, with Todd getting to. After this is who fills Todd's spot. So we're gonna
That's
have to go through those issues later.
next on the agenda.
Can we, yeah, I was gonna ask, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
That's it, go ahead.
Can we talk about that tonight?
Yeah, that's the discussion item.
Okay.
But this is an action item, so we could keep this moving.
So I was gonna say, Todd's proven himself and his abilities to lead, so I would support this.
So we have a motion to forward this recommendation to the township board. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay. So now we're up to department updates and discussion items, Chief. Item 1, I think we just took care of.
So that would leave, once the board makes the determination, that would leave, if the recommendation is followed through, it would leave a vacancy in lieutenant. So that'd be
I
have
know
to, a
you've
discussion.
talked to
that- that's-
Derek, you
I'm
and
sorry.
I have talked, what's your recommendation of
We
the
have-
process you want to follow?
We have 3 sergeants that are all capable. I haven't spoken to each one of them. I believe they'd all be interested in having an interview for that position, and then you gentlemen determine. That's up to your, that's
No,
up
and
to
I think that-
that's up to you guys'
I'm sorry.
prerogative.
Go ahead.
I think that following, as the township ordinance states, that the police commission does have the authority over both, and they can, do the promoting. I think it would be in our best interest to put it out there, Doug, on an email, anybody that would like to apply for the lieutenant's position. Maybe not all of them would like to apply, you never know, but anybody that likes to apply.
Staying within the rank of sergeant, or
I
to-
would
to-
believe
what are you asking for?
That is absolutely, it's up to these gentlemen, they make the decision. But in the best practice policies, we're not gonna be jumping positions. As far as I'm concerned, that's very harmful to a police department.
Past practice is we've restricted it to sergeant.
Then that's what these gentlemen want, then I would put out an email And anyone who's available, and it's up to you gentlemen when you'd like to, if we do it in,
I think we have to wait to the 28th to see what the
Right.
board, what their final conclusion is, and then giving anybody that wants to apply opportunity to get their resume and to get their information
well,
together.
you could still, after the
We'll put it out,
28th.
yeah.
I mean, you still can put out the email to get them ready if they need to do any researching, any homework, give them some time, and saying after the 28th, a decision will be made if there's an opening, but just to let you know, because it would be good. Maybe someone want to do their homework.
And then we'll have Jessica coordinate with you gentlemen about interviews, a time and date.
And because all of us are there, it's got to be done, a special meeting. It's going to be a board meeting. I'm sorry.
Commission meeting.
Commission meeting. I'm sorry. It has to be a commission meeting. Since we're all there, it's no big deal. I mean, it's not, you can do it at any time you want, and it doesn't have to be
And
televised.
it's likely at this point that would be sometime in September.
It just has to be an open meeting.
No problem.
We'll all be, at least 3 of us will be there for sure. I mean, that's,
So we'll wait for the 28th, and then we'll try to schedule a date and time.
But you can give the guys a heads
Yes,
up.
yes.
yeah, I think it would be, it
We
would be
will.
better to give them heads up, Doug, just simply because they might want to do research, may want to do some homework, may want to see.
Absolutely, absolutely. We'll try to put out this,
Prepare themselves, prepare their resume, prepare what they've done.
we'll try to put it out this week.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
just you give them
Yeah.
time, so
I
it's not a
agree.
surprise.
I agree.
All right.
So going down the ladder with Deputy Chief Pellin's retirement, I met with Derek Thiel and Mr. Budney about starting a process to hire a new replacement officer to fill it. So they both agreed on that. So we're going to start that process in the next week or two. And then we got to get our ducks in a row for advertising and preparing a strategy to try to get a net out as far. It's going to be very difficult to get a large amount of officers right now. So it's like the same as last time. The officers that we had on our list before, that we had were basically the small list we had, have all been picked up.
So just a hypothetical.
A year. It's been almost a year, or maybe I'm not sure about a year, but they're gone. So we're going to start a whole new process.
But just a hypothetical, I mean, assuming one of the sergeants becomes the lieutenant, then we'd have an opening for sergeant.
Correct.
And that would be filled
By
per
seniority.
contract by
By
seniority.
seniority, and then last time we had a couple gentlemen, a couple officers that turned it down. So for whatever their personal reasons are, and we respect that, of course. So.
And that's where the police officer opening comes.
Yeah.
When we
Yes, but
appoint a new sergeant.
We're
Just
mov-
wanted to make
we're-
sure.
We're
that-
moving up
Yeah.
on, everybody's kind of moving
Right.
up, and then there's an opening in the back end, so.
Yep.
And
all
being
right.
a contractual item, Doug, you decide that afterwards, and then the individual would be asked by you.
Yep.
You do all that legwork, and then I think it just goes to the commission. and
We'll
that's
bring
the
it to you. We'll bring it to you when that time comes. Any more questions on that? If you guys are unaware, last week we had our millage renewal, passed 77%. Pretty good number. I think we're consistent with
What was
all.
the turnout, do we know?
It was a low turnout.
800 out of 80, what do we have, 88, 8,600?
Like a quarter of the population, voting population.
About a quarter.
I think it
came
was
out.
just said in the last board meeting, which is,
Just around a quarter came out.
was a small
25%,
turnout.
Yeah.
Yep. Dispatch update, we received 12 applicants. We interviewed 9. 4 are moving on to the next step, and we've been talking with one of the lieutenants in Brownstown that does that online testing process. We're going to try to implement that to the 4 remaining to kind of get a ranking on that, and then once we kind of get the information collected from that, we'll pass it on to the commission for you guys to do your interview. So it's kind of a neat process. And then the gas pump project, that's the biggest one we've had with the COVID money. I think Joe had mentioned that last night, how it was paid for out of COVID money is coming a little bit under cost as of right now. And then if I can touch on some questions that you guys had talked about yesterday about using the gas station versus the pumps for fueling cars during the whole construction of the gas tank that was brought up yesterday. We had discussed that with the fire department and the other departments in the township, that trying to get a ladder truck under the overhang at Marathon or Mobile, I don't think is going to be a good idea. It'd be like Austin Powers, so we can't do that.
Pulling out that scares me, not pulling in.
Yeah, they're going to get that thing stuck. So
I don't want to take a pump out.
Jessica, and who's kind of working with the engineers and the companies, and Oscar Larson, who got the contract, she's able to, our current gas provider is gonna rent us 2 500-gallon gas tanks for a very small amount of money. It's like $300 total for the life of the project. And they're gonna give them to us, and then the entire township can use it still. It just still have to be filled probably more frequently, depending on gas usage. So I don't know how we haven't got to the point how they're gonna set that up for these temporary gas tanks, but that's very nice of that gas company to do that for us. So that's about it for the department update. So we've completed some of those COVID money projects, and we're still working to move some, and the fire department's working on theirs too. So any questions on department updates? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Still want it up on the projector. So I don't know how in-depth you want me to go on this for the monthly report, but that's our incoming calls for July of 2023. Total for the year, we're up to 1071. Were there any questions or anything that sticks out to you that you had any questions
No,
on?
just if there's anything that you would want to note.
No, that's, we're on par for about the same numbers as last year for the number of calls. Just the traffic summary.
One thing that jumps out is July's number for total crashes is like double any other month. Do we have any idea what that could be attributed to?
It's not an increase of traffic, it's just,
Been a lot of construction though.
there has been, but it hasn't been, none of that has been in a construction zone. As we're aware, the car deer accidents, which is highly due to the success of the deer call. We've only had one this year, one reported. I mean, there could have been others that we don't know about, but to date, we have the one. Mr. Anderson, to say why is there an increase? There's not there's not an influx of traffic. The road conditions or construction do not have a factor in any of that. It's just, it's the cycle. Sometimes some months you have more crashes, some you have less. Questions further on that? Okay, these are our monthly statistics. So for the month of July, we're up to 15 other citations. NTAs were 9. No parking violations, 78 verbal warnings, no warrant arrest for the month, 3 felony arrests, 7 misdemeanor, 35 officer reports. FOIAs are at 4. Car deers we just spoke about are 0. Accident reports, we had 14. Mr. Anderson, you were just speaking on that. ACO reports are 1, and security notices are 30. So those numbers are staying pretty consistent through the summer months. The monthly training report, July of 2023, Criminal Justice Agency Security Awareness Training, Deputy Chief Pellin and Detective Sacanteras. It's the last section of a 4-part series of updates on security measures for law enforcement agencies. We also did in July active shooter review. That was all the road officers, and that was the tactics and techniques for an active shooter response by officers to any critical incident. Everybody in the department had that training. We all went through it, and it was in conjunction with the fire department as well. SWAT monthly training. Officer Benson consisted of handgun and rifle proficiency drills and increased distance, barricade additional training, and rappelling with barricaded shooter positions. The Deputy Chief Pellin, crisis and negotiation team monthly training. 3 simulated negotiation scenarios involving an armed barricade with hostages, suicidal subject, and an individual suffering from mental illness. Conducted debriefings on recent activations. K-9 Officer Carrico, he had 18 hours of narcotics detection in vehicles, watercraft, and confined areas utilizing several masking odors to force the K-9 to work through distractions. The dive team monthly training, we did a multi-jurisdictional training with dive teams throughout the area here, southeast Michigan. We have a new piece of equipment. It's called the Aqua Eye Sonar. It's a handheld imaging device that detects, and it does it through artificial intelligence. What it has on board is it has over 15,000 images of what a body looks like underwater, and it can decipher between an underwater anomaly or a body, and it will actually mark it on the graph by distance and depth. So a body will show as an X and an anomaly will show as a 0. It's a really, really great piece of equipment. We've been training with it. Actually, I just received a call from Region 2. They want us, I know we're all aware that there was a plane crash in Belleville at the air show. We were just contacted. They want our assistance for retrieving the debris in the lake. And that is it. Any other questions?
Anyone have any questions of Todd?
Yeah, I do have one, Todd.
Yes, sir.
I'm not sure if you'd be able to answer this, or maybe Doug. With Ken leaving, Ken wasn't he the commander of the hostage negotiation team?
He was.
With Ken leaving, that means probably, obviously in that task force there, that they would have a lot of bump ups, because the guy at the top left. I'm sure they would bump up. And could you check, or have they stated that they are recruiting one individual because they've lost one? I just think it would be really an excellent tool, or an individual to be a part of that program for Girls Zeal that would help. I get it that we used to call hostage negotiation, we used to call SWAT, but it all takes time. And to have somebody trained in that position and be a part of that team would really be something, I think, for us and for the people of Girls Zeal. It's quite an art, and I don't know, maybe if one of you could check into that to see if they're asking.
Yes, we have a commitment of 3 mutual aid commitments. Every department has that. We have Lieutenant Brozak's on the dive team, Officer Benson's on the SWAT team, and Ken was on the CNT team. So there are a lot of opportunities too, but we discussed that today to try to figure out who can fit one of those roles. But I get what you're saying. It's
I just think it would really be a excellent choice if you wanted to go on a team to get that type of training, to have somebody on the road. And I get it, they're not here if they're not working, but still, I think that it really is quite an art and quite a specialized. Not to say the others aren't. Obviously, yeah, I can't drive a boat like you. I get it. It's not any less. But my point is, I think that it would behoove us to at least look to see if they would be asking for, how they did it last time. They did interviews. They actually conducted them, believe it or not, in my office. That's where the interviews were. And not with me, though.
I do know Deputy Chief Pellin. He was very involved in grooming and picking his replacement. He was part of the interview process.
Right.
He was involved in the training, all the scenarios he set up. So he was very, very involved, and he had a very strong say in who was chosen for his position.
Yeah, no, I understand that, but there's got to be one at the very bottom like we do. When, the chief retires, we hire a patrolman because everybody bumps up, right? I mean,
Us three discussed it today about trying to fill our commitment to a DMA spot. I also want to reach out to Jeff Watson, Chief Watson from Brownstown, to see if they have vacancies, what they have vacancies in, and where they maybe need people more also, like the crash team. But I understand the importance of that, and there's also they're trying to form one downriver with all the detectives to be like a response team for a high incident, where there's like they had one in downriver in River Rouge where all the detectives were called together as a team that went to Rouge to help them with a homicide. So that was an experience too. We sent an officer there, but they were not part of the team. So, and the CNT to see if they have an opening. Because I know they have taken on more officers before Ken left. So I don't even know if there's an opening.
well, that's all I'm asking.
Yeah, no,
Just,
we're going to look in to see what their needs are too. Because we try to broaden our. I know SWAT has an opening, but we already have a commitment to SWAT, the actual SWAT team.
Right.
So
Okay.
we talked about that today. We had an admin meeting this morning. So.
Well, if possible, we need a presence there, it would be good, and it gives the officers an opportunity
Absolutely.
to get into something different.
Absolutely. And then like what Joe was saying about the experience on that type of particular training is very unique, and it goes into past, when you're on the road, talking to domestic situations. It goes into on a traffic stop. It goes into a whole bunch of things that training can be applied to. And I think that's one of the things that you were touching on there. It comes back to the road too. Helps out in the department, so.
Two more
Okay,
things.
any more questions for Todd?
Yep, I still had the complaint and arrest report and the juvenile, but go ahead with your question.
The Aqua Eye, is that one that we have for all of Downriver? Or
Yes, that,
Is that gonna be more of a recovery tool or a rescue tool, or kind of depends?
it can be used as a rescue tool, but more than likely at that point you're in recovery mode. Mhm. And that was purchased through DCC, and we hosted a training for it, and we had teams from the entire area that are interested in it. They've had a lot of success. We were called to Monroe on a drowning, and they were having a hard time locating Raisin River. Very murky, very dark water, and it picked up on them right away, found them under a dock. So it's an impressive piece of equipment. You would think because you have side scan imaging and you have all these other type of sonar devices, but this is handheld. You just put it in the water and it's just a rotate. They're about $4,000, $4,000.
Is that something that we can have on hand potentially here so that it's readily available?
It's readily available here now. So we keep it with the dive trailer. So
The dive team is based out of Groseal. So yeah, and that cost was split between all the departments downriver. So.
Other questions? Any other questions? Sorry. Okay. Complaint and arrest report. Property, 2 MDOPs, 1 larceny. Persons, we had 1 A and B and 2 other. Miscellaneous, we had a family, 5 other, and 1 identity theft. Year-to-date, 21 for the property, 45 for persons, and 46 for miscellaneous. Just a brief overview, 2 cases, trespassing complaint, 3457 on July 11th, 2023. A Groseal resident who resides on West River came to the Groseal Police Station to file a trespassing complaint against their neighbor. According to the complainant, their neighbor to the south was captured on video turning a no trespassing sign in the opposite direction. The case was turned over to the Detective Bureau for further investigation. The case was reviewed and discussed with local township prosecutor. It was determined due to ongoing civil dispute between the neighbors' property line, the matter is civil. Status is now closed for that. Hit and run traffic crash, 233852 on July 30th. Approximately 2 a.m., Groseal officers were dispatched to the area of West River on Hawthorne Glen for a traffic crash. When officers arrived on scene, they located an unoccupied 4-door gray Saturn that had crashed into the guardrail on the west side of West River. Family members of the driver arrived on scene and tried to explain what happened. Officers eventually identified the driver as a 35-year-old Newport, Michigan resident. Driver admitted to driving and had no explanation for the crash. Driver was issued a citation for leaving the scene of an accident and no proof of insurance. Both are misdemeanor violations. For the juvenile report, some of you may be aware of this one. There was a UTV traffic crash on July 4th. Grosse Ile officers responded to the area of Byramar, east of Thoroughfare, on a report of a single vehicle crash with injuries. Officers arrived on scene and learned 2 juveniles, ages 12, were driving a Polaris Ranger utility vehicle on the roadway and lost control, crashing into a ditch. The utility vehicle rolled over and the 12-year-old driver sustained serious injuries and eventually was transported to Children's Hospital in Detroit. The 12-year-old passenger sustained minor injuries. The 12-year-old driver recovered and spent approximately 2 weeks in the hospital. After the 12-year-old driver returned home, the officers that responded to the scene met with the family to discuss the dangers, laws, and legal consequences of driving off-road vehicles on public roads. Officers did not issue any citations and used their discretion to educate the juveniles in understanding the seriousness of and consequences of their actions. And that one is also closed. And that is all I have. Any questions on any of those?
Anyone have any questions? Any further questions for Todd?
Nope.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Well, Joey, we're to you. Liaison.
Reserve report.
Got
Whoops.
Wes first.
I'm sorry. Moving too fast.
Eric, sorry. It's all right.
Hi, good evening. Sergeant Vasquez, liaison for the Reserve Unit. Reserve report for July 2023. Total hours committed were 82.5 hours for the month. The July events were on July 7th. In a payback, our Reserve Department helped out Woodhaven Police Department Reserve Unit with their Uncle Sam Jam. They were kind enough to, within the past few years, have helped us out with Island Fest. So what's nice is that the communities that have reserve units in hosting their events or assisting them with that, we're able to pay back, with them helping out. On July 8th, the Grosse Ile Rotary Club had a motorcycle ride event. The cancellation was canceled due to weather. The reserve officers that had signed up for that detail came in and worked their 1085 details, which was giving special attention to vacation homes, parks, schools during that time frame that the event was supposed to be hosted. On July 15th, there was a planes, trains, automobiles, and motorcycles gearheads events that was held here at Hangar 1. That too was canceled due to weather, but there were some individuals that had parked their vehicles in the hangar the day prior, and we found that there were still spectators that came, so there was a reserve officer that was assigned to that. So along with attending it, for those that came, there was some community relations that was taken care of as well. On July 22nd, again, the Grosse Ile Reserve Unit had helped out with the Taylor Telegraph Dream Cruise. Taylor PD had requested some assistance from various departments because their reserve unit was disbanded. We've helped out in the past, and as we all know, several of our reserve officers that we currently have did some time with Taylor PD in the past, where they received their training. So we gave some assistance on that weekend. On July 29th, Grosse Ile Rotary Club Home and Garden event hosted 5 homes that were open for view. There were some tickets that were purchased by roughly 250 folks, and that turned out to be a pretty busy event, especially on West River and East River. So with that, reserve officers came in. We assisted with some traffic and some parking issues that were going on. August events that we have, we had Election Day. And then on the 19th, I think I have the wrong date on here, August 16th, August 19th, correct, for Smithsonian? There's the Simpsonian 5K Kickoff Classic. I believe this is the 21st race that they're hosting, and it's right around the high school up Grays, East River, Ferry, and then back through Lowry somehow. We'll have some folks in the unit that are going to be present that day for assistance. And last, just an update for our manpower. The 5, we had 1 missing today, Officer Scotty. So we'll have to take care of that another day for the oath. But I want to bring up Sarah Kelly, if you have not met her yet. Sarah, if you can come up here briefly. Sarah Kelly has been with us for several months now. We've been unfortunate to set her into a Schoolcraft Academy because the classes have been canceled. So Sarah Kelly, who's an Island resident, has given time each month with Captain Wes Price, starting her FTO program, even though it's pre-certification or a certificate of completion for the academy. So we're trying to mesh all that together to get her ready for the academy. We did have another reserve officer by the name of Jacob Tremblay. He had some prior experience with Taylor PD, where he had a certificate of completion of his training, and several other departments that he donates some time to. But he's helped us out with 2 details, but due to his busy schedule, unfortunately had to resign. But we do appreciate the time that he did give us. So with that, that's the monthly report. You'll be seeing Sarah Kelly around a little bit more often, and we hope to get her into an academy as soon as possible.
Very good.
Thank you.
Yes, you too. Thank you.
Now, I can say, we're to Joey for the liaison.
The only thing really coming from the board, I'm glad that, well, I didn't see any problems with it, but we did pass the 2 main issues for repairs. And just so the people know, we're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars basically for all this, especially because of the new gas tanks at no cost to the township taxpayers, and that's always a good thing. And besides that, there really isn't anything else coming from the board level.
Very good. All right, public comment. There doesn't appear to be any spectators, but
Motion to approve the reports.
we need to put that on. Because I can only read what's in front of me.
I move to approve the monthly reports.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Now, public comment.
Vicky.
Anyone that hasn't had a chance to speak, have anything they want to ask? You're welcome at this point in time.
They're all jumping out of their seats.
I see that. I see just a flurry of hands. There being no public comment, do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
Sorry, I jumped in.
The meeting is adjourned at, let's go with 7:50 p.m.